All right. Um, Thank you, President Arome. So today's presentation would start with a little bit of a background on the solid waste collection rates. We've had some members that wanted for GAOR to weigh in on this policy, on this ordinance. And we will also be talking about the Tri-City unemployment rates. What are the current unemployment rates? Why is that important? Because Fed's only way of fighting the recession is to increase unemployment, create some pain, and also increase the Fed funds rate. So we'll be talking about that and the nexus between them. We'll be talking about the interest rates and some thoughts from counselors of real estate, which is as prestigious, if not more, than the CCIM Institute. We'll also be talking about the county and LA City extensions of the moratoriums, and we'll give you that update. And as President Arome suggested, that there is another wave of attacks on Costa-Hawkins, and this we call it Proposition 21 Redux, right? You remember we defeated that. But what's the latest, brightest idea out of the box from our legislators? National rent control. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit as well and give you some sense of what's coming down the pipe. But before that, let's talk some trash. Our members some of them have gotten in touch with President Arome and asked them for us to weigh in on the increase in the trash collection or the solid waste collection fees that is scheduled to go or to be heard by January 31st. There are currently 72,000 ratepayers. For this ordinance not to go into effect, at least 35,000 need to show protests in writing to the City Council. So far, according to my knowledge, from what I've gathered, maybe less than 1,000 people have protested the fee. Now, the reason that I have suggested to the executive team to take the position that I will be sharing with you is because of a few important facts that you need to be saddled with just in case if your clients or your family asks you about them. The idea here is the increases on the 64-gallon trash bins to by about $16 a month and 94-gallon trash bins by about $13 a month. Now, you have to consider that in order to put this thing in perspective, you need to understand that in the past 10 years, City of Glendale has not increased the trash collection fees by a cent. If you were to apply the trend line CPI, which is about 3.25% or 3.5% for the past 99 years in our country, that created a savings of about $1,800 per ratepayer. $1,800. In other words, the ratepayers are ahead of the game by $1,800 because they did not have to pay any increases in trash collection fees for the past decade. The second reason that the recommendation is not to weigh in on this thing is even after the rate increase, you will see that the Glendale proposed rate increase would bring, say, a trash bin fee up to about $32 a month. That, in comparison to the existing Pasadena at above $40 and Burbank, somewhere close to about $55. Now, it's considering the savings in the past 10 years and the fact that in Tri-City areas, we're still below our sister cities of Pasadena and Burbank, that my recommendation to the executive team was not to weigh in the way that, for example, we have weighed in on the Grayson issue and the biogas and so forth. So enough of trash. Let's look at some unemployment numbers in the three areas, in the three cities of Glendale, Pasadena, Burbank. Glendale has elevated to about 4.4%, about 10 basis points. Pasadena went up a little bit, and Burbank also went up. I don't know if the cause of the unemployment increase is because of what Jay Powell and the federal Fed funds rate is being raised, but it's a good bet to say that that's exactly what it is. Now, you compare that to California, you will see that the California unemployment rate is at 4.10%. So in Glendale, we are slightly elevated. Pasadena is doing better than the state, and Burbank is doing not so good and higher than the state. And the U.S. unemployment rate, by comparison, is about 3.5%. You've heard us, Sevak, myself, your president, say that this is a tale of two cities. We have very, very strong employment in the country and in the state. And until such time that that unemployment rate goes up to about 5%, the Fed funds rate will continue on. They will continue on raising the rates. It's our understanding. Now, the whole idea behind this Fed funds rate and the interest rate is that at least what is being tried here is called a soft landing. In other words, so we would not have to go into a huge recessionary decade and or few years, just like the time that we went through with Paul Volcker in early 1980s. I want to share with you what the general consensus of the counselors of real estate, and this is, you can't get any more prestigious than this, what their members as advisors think where the Fed funds rate would fall in 2023. The majority of the members think that we will be between 4 and 4.5%. This may be slightly different from GAOR economists' thoughts, but I wanted to share this with you because when they talk, I certainly lend an ear and hear what they have to say. All right, let's talk about the eviction moratorium extension in the county of Los Angeles. I attended the session for a few hours last night or yesterday before the city council meetings, and I will tell you the idea here was, in fact, and I'm glad that it came out throughout the meeting, that the last extension was supposed to have been the last extension of the moratorium because of COVID-19 effects on the economy and on the people. However, two of the supervisors have introduced another extension for a period of 6 months. And what they were thinking is to extend the moratorium under the emergency authority up until June of 2023. Fortunately, clear heads prevailed last night, and instead of extending it for 6 months, they did do the extension for 2 months until March 31st of 2023. Now, understand that there is some confusion. There are 88 cities in the county of Los Angeles, and according to the supervisors, they each need to, adopt an ordinance for a permanent protection for the tenants and what have you. And the board of supervisors under the impression that each city, what they have passed the extension would apply to every single city in the county. However, my own information from our city, because we are a chartered city, is that this does not apply to the city of Glendale. But again, if you have clients that ask you about this, and I had one realtor that was frantically yesterday calling me and asking me how it would affect city of Glendale, and her tenant, or I'm sorry, her client in Sunland and so forth. And I had to tell her that, look, do not put yourself in a position of giving legal advice to your clients. Make sure that you can provide some background for them, but do make sure that they would ask an attorney that is well-versed, much more well-versed than we are in the legal end of, or the legal ramifications of these extensions. What about City of Los Angeles? Los Angeles adopted 3 or 4 days prior to the county adoption of the extension to March, permanent tenant protections that involve universal just cause to require a reason for eviction. By the way, when you compare that to City of Glendale, we have had that just cause since 2018. And of course, we do have exceptions, about 11 exceptions that applies to it, whether it's a landlord and or a housing provider wanting to move back into the unit, or give it to a family member, or do renovations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this information is available on the city website. They also adopted a relocation assistance, that if the tenant cannot pay the rent, the housing provider will be obligated to provide them, on a tier approach, a level of relocation based on the market value of a similar unit. By the way, City of Glendale has that. As you know, we have a rental cap of 7%. If you wanted to increase more than 7%, if your client wanted to increase the rent for more than 7%, they could. It's an economic decision, because now they have to pay a relocation fee up to 6 months, depending on the length of the tenancy that the tenant has had in that unit. And of course, the city decided to provide a grace period for past due rent, and of about 1 month before filing an unlawful detainer and so forth. Now, this expansion would apply to additional 400,000 people in the city of Los Angeles, or 400,000 tenants in the city of Los Angeles. As you know, 650 or 700,000 already are covered because they're living units that are prior to 1978. So when you compare this to the county, you will see that the city policy is more stricter and than the county. It also is barring the eviction of people that have accepted a roommate or brought in a pet, and that would not be allowed up until the year 2024. Now, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what President Rome suggested coming down the pike, which is the redux of Prop 21. Prop 21 was an attack on Costa-Hawkins, and I'll give you a couple of the protections that Costa-Hawkins provides us. And we sponsored, as California Association of Realtors, Costa-Hawkins bill that became the law in 1995. And after we defeated 21, then we also defeated Proposition 10, if you remember. And all of that was really brought forth and put on the ballot through a ballot initiative by the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Now, it's an important fact for you to know that this is an organization that has got $2 billion, with a B, $2 billion in revenue every year. And there are formidable foe when it comes to propositions like this. In fact, 60% of Californians rejected a rent control measure like this, or an attack on Costa-Hawkins. But having said that, right now, the same group has provided or asked the Attorney General for a title and summary for 2024 ballot to do the same thing in order to weaken and or totally eliminate the Costa-Hawkins. Why is Costa-Hawkins important? Well, at least for 2 reasons. Number one, if you own a house or your client owns a house, forget about apartment buildings, folks, a house, that under Costa-Hawkins cannot be subjected to rent control. If Costa-Hawkins goes away and you wanted to retire, or your client wanted to retire and use the house that they have paid mortgage, taxes, and maintenance on for the past 30 years, they will not be able to do so without being subjected to rent control measures. And that's the danger of it, because it's not only about multifamily, but it also affects single family homes, condos, townhouses, and what have you. And the second reason, the protection that Costa-Hawkins provides you, is the vacancy decontrol. So if you have a tenant that has left the premises and the lease has ended, now you can go to the market rents. But if Costa-Hawkins goes away, then that rate increase will not be market, would still fall under the purview of rent control measures that municipality will have. So this is why, you as ambassadors, I've called you ambassadors many, many times, that you need to let people know that this is the kind of stuff that is coming down, and that your association needs their help, whether it's contribution to RAF and or participation to lend their voice and their vote to issues that are important to the Realtor Party. Don't ever forget this. The job of your association and your executive team, and they've done a marvelous job at this thing for as long as I remember, is to keep you in the center of the transaction. Now let's talk about the rent control on a nationwide basis. This was a proposition that was brought forth by a senator and a representative from the state of New York. And according to Wall Street, is that they want President Biden to take executive orders to tackle this issue and to make sure that they have a nationwide rent control. Of course, what is worrisome about this thing is that 50 members of Congress have penned and or co-signed the letter to White House, and that President Biden pretty soon, in 2 or 3 weeks, is going to be announcing some level of tenant protections nationwide, or federalizing the issue, whereas this is real estate, as you know, it's a local issue, it's a state issue, and it's city issue. So, the chances that this would go through is, I want to say, not that much, but it's something that you need to keep on the radar on a federal level. Last thing that I want to do is I want to talk about the meeting of City Council last night that involved the biogas generation from the Shoal Canyon. As you know, presently, the methane gas that is being generated in the landfill is being flared. Not a very productive way. It's a waste of energy, and it's a waste of money, by the way, because that gas can be captured and turned into energy. And that's what the biogas plant was in Shoal Canyon. And the EIR, or in the Environmental Impact Report of this project, was approved a couple of 2 or 3 months ago. In fact, this project was in front of me when I was the chair of Planning Commission in 2018. And I was the only proponent of the project. My 2 other colleagues wanted to do an EIR, and they did so, and the project got postponed for 4, 5, 6 years. As a result, that project cost today is 120 million versus what it could have been at 42 million. So what the project will do is to capture the methane and turn it into energy and locally generate energy and electricity that would fuel the need of 11,000 or so households. That's about 12 megawatts, 11 to 12 megawatts of power that will be generated locally, that we don't have to buy from outside sources. As you know, one of the issues that the city of Glendale or any other municipality has is the fact of the matter that we are transmission burdened. In other words, there are not that many transmission lines that can bring very, very expensive electricity into the city of Glendale. So all in all, this is a good thing. And AQMD, which stands for Air Quality Management District, also had approved the project as a green project. So I am happy to report that, again, saner minds prevailed, and the city council approved the Shoal Canyon biogas, and that's a good thing for the city of Glendale. So next time you do see your legislators, do congratulate them, do tell them that we appreciate what they have done. With that, President Rome, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Greg. Really appreciate it. Wonderful presentation as ever. There was one question in the chat by Mike Napolitano, and he wanted to know, we all want to know, the name of the organization that is going against Coastal Hawkins, that AIDS group.
Well, it's the person that has signed or requested the title summary from AG, Attorney General, is an individual. But it is our, and this is speculation at this moment, right? But it is our opinion that it is AIDS Health Foundation, and this is going to be under some sort of a name of justice for renters type of a thing. So the chances that it's the AIDS Healthcare Foundation is more so than none.
Thank you. Ira, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. Greg, am I correct on the LA City action that it also applies to single family houses?
That is correct. That's my understanding, Ira.
Thank you. Sevan Gorginian, go ahead. You have a question.
Good morning. Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everyone. Greg, are you the eviction moratorium? Would you know if there's any? I'm just curious what the representation is for the landlords. If there's anyone lobbying for them, because I have a lot of clients who are extremely being injured by this eviction moratorium. So I'm just curious if you know if there's any I guess landlord association groups or whatever, the name doesn't come to me, that basically say, you know, this is injuring a lot. It's doing more harm on the other side. So I'm just curious if you know anything about that.
Very good question. Thank you for that question. Here's the deal. Every association on local level has been against it, right? So that's one point of contact. Your landlords contacting the association, government affairs directors, and you know, be provided with the information that they want. Secondly, California Apartment Association is also spearheading this thing, and the Association of Apartment Owners of Greater Los Angeles, AGLA, are the three organizations, CAR, our local realtor associations, along with AGLA and CAA, that are in opposition, and they're always there, or their members, the red alerts that they send to their members, as we do, in order to you know, have their members show up, voice their concerns, and so forth. In fact, one of the reasons why the county, Savan, yesterday, as opposed to doing 6 months, went down to 2 months, which, by the way, was 2 months too much, so to say, because they had told us that the last one, they said in September 22nd of last year that December was going to be the last extension. That was the end of that, and we should have been done by end of January 31st. But the reason that these supervisors, and namely Supervisor Horvath from D3 and Solis D1, that were concerned was because the number of evictions has gone up in the county level to 3,000 a week, and that's pre-pandemic levels, right? And unfortunately, conflating homelessness with rent increases is the en vogue thing of the day, and one has nothing to do with the other, not at least as much as people think. But again, AGLA, AAGLA, CAA, and the local associations, we are proponents of you know, ending the moratorium, and we have a lot of data information sharing with clients.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, there's a question in the chat by Colleen Swalyan. She's asking, can a landlord serve just cause eviction to a tenant to sell her condo? Would she have to pay for relocation if the tenant is on a month-to-month basis?
What city?
I'm thinking it is Glendale.
Okay.
Colleen, Glendale, yeah, she
Yeah.
said Glendale.
So in city of Glendale, we are bound by the just cause ordinances, right? Now, I got to be careful not to give you legal advice. What I can tell you is go to the glendaleca.gov to there, and I will post the link, and you will see all of the information in there. No, single family homes are not part of the just cause eviction in city of Glendale. But again,
including townhomes and condos.
I mean, single family homes, right? Now, if you own more than 4 or 5, then it becomes a different story. But having said that, again, you need to go to the website and check it for yourself, or ask your attorney. I mean, you know, folks, I'm telling you, the reason that I'm saying consult the attorneys or have your clients consult them, because you have 88 different cities, right, in the county. Each and every one of them has got a certain flavor of this ordinance, the just cause eviction. Some of them do, some of them don't. For God's sake, we just had Proposition H, rent control passed in the city of Pasadena. Oh, by the way, let me also update you on that there is a lawsuit, Sevan, by CAA against the city of Pasadena on the issue of the rent control, because they think it's unconstitutional. They were seeking an injunction. That injunction went away because the proponents of the rent control and CAA, under the judge's supervision, came together and understood that the judge will fast track this thing, and we'll look at it in March. And I think it's in March, if I'm not wrong. And we will have a decision on the constitutionality of the rent control in Pasadena. But having said that, I also want to share with you the following, that it's very, very difficult for a judge to turn down the will of the voters, right? So take that with a grain of salt.
Thank you very much, Greg. So if there are no other questions, I'll just throw this out. Trust me, I wasn't paid by anybody, but one of our affiliate members that I'm aware of is a real estate attorney. His name is Rafi Bulgurjian. If anybody is interested to consult them for whatever real estate matters, there you go. We have an affiliate member there that you could contact.